FreeTaxUSA might not have the same level of brand recognition compared to companies like TurboTax or H&R Block, but they are one of the few companies that give you the option to file your federal taxes for free without any sort of restrictions on amount or types of income. I'm Bradford, the Penny Pinchers Go to Personal Finance, and in this video, I'm going to cover what FreeTaxUSA offers, and walk through on how to use their software, talk about what are the pros and cons of using it, and then how to decide whether or not it's going to be a good fit for you. First, I do want to be transparent that this is a paid review for FreeTaxUSA, but we only partner with companies that give us complete discretion on what we say about their product, both the good and the bad. If you have any questions about the tutorial or the review, put them in the comments down below and I'll be sure to get back to you. So what is FreeTaxUSA and what do they offer? FreeTaxUSA was founded back in 2001 and they were one of the original members of the IRS Free File program. Their flagship offering is their ability to offer free filing on the federal level without any sort of restrictions on how much you make or what sorts of investments that you have. They do offer state filing for $14.99 per state, and then they do have a couple upsell options to be able to increase the service that you get. The first level for $7.99 is going to be their deluxe offering. And the big thing that you get there is you're going to get prioritized in their customer service queue using a text interface on their portal, as well as the option to have unlimited amended returns. And then their highest level upgrade that they have available to you is going to be their pro option at $34.99. This is going to include everything the deluxe option offers, but the biggest thing here is that it's going to give you one-on-one access to a CPA, primarily through screen sharing, and then they're going to help you make sure you understand how you're filling out their application and making sure that all of your taxes are done correctly. With a basic understanding of what FreeTaxUSA offers, let's go over to the website and I'm going to do a detailed walkthrough of how to file your taxes with them with the following assumptions. Be married filing jointly, a single source of income via W-2, and then one dependent as a child. Well, I'll touch on how you can use other sources of income like 1099s and what you need to do to take advantage of other common tax credits and deductions. Those assumptions are what I'm going to be focusing on. So if you're not interested in seeing this walkthrough, use the timestamps in the description to be able to jump ahead to what you care about. Now let's jump over to the website and see how you actually file your taxes with their software. So here we have your homepage, and this is how you're going to know you're on the right website. Like any sort of tax preparation software, you're going to have to create an account and then log in. And then once you've logged in, this is what the interface is going to look like. It's basically going to proceed left to right in a linear order on how you're actually going to file your taxes with them. It's going to start out, you're going to fill out all your personal information. You're going to cover what sources of income you have. Then you're going to go into deductions and credits, any miscellaneous tax information, kind of less common situations that people still might have apply to them. It's going to give you a summary where it's going to break down all of the taxes that you've paid, what deductions and credits you qualify for, and then it's going to give you a breakdown of whether or not you're getting a refund or you need to write a check to the IRS. And then it gives you the option to file with states if that applies to you. And then it gets into the actual filing process, making sure that you have all of your information correct with your social security number, if you have a tax filing number, and then it's going to give you the option on how you actually want that refund sent back to you. So I've already gone through the entire process and filled everything out with the example that I've set up. We're going to have John Smith, his wife Jane Smith, and then their son Joe Smith. And he works a simple job down in Texas and he makes $50,000 a year. So now let's actually jump in. We're going to go through all of the personal info that I filled out using an example W-2 that I'll link in one of my later videos, but let's actually jump into it. So first, we're going to go into personal and we're going to start out with taxpayer information. You're going to come in here, you're going to put your first name, last name, occupation, what's your social security number, date of birth, where do you live, and then other things that are important to be able to decide whether or not you're able to claim certain deductions. It's can a parent or somebody else claim you as a dependent on a tax return. And what I really like about here is that basically for any of these questions, they have this little question mark next to it, and you can click on that, and it's going to give you some more information to help you understand exactly what that question is referring to. So that way there's not any ambiguity, and you're not reading a question and then saying, well, maybe the answer is yes, maybe it's no, I'm not really sure. But the nice thing there is that's basically available for almost every single question. And then even if this doesn't answer it for you, they do have a text queue that you can go to actually talk to somebody that can provide you with a little bit more clarification. But with that, we just go in here for this situation. It's gonna be no for all of these because I'm filling this out for John Smith. We're gonna save and continue. It's gonna say, what is your filing status? For this example, we're doing married filing jointly. We're gonna save and continue. Talking about Jane, the fictional wife in the situation, same thing, first name, last name, what's their occupation, social security number, date of birth, and then all the same questions as the first page. Continuing on here, we're going to talk about dependents or qualifying children. So for this one, we have Joe Smith as the son. I made him an arbitrary age that is under the age of 18, so he can still be qualified as a dependent to get the applicable credits and deductions. So I've already pre-filled this out, but if you do have children, you're going to come in here and you're going to say yes, you have any more dependents or qualifying children, or before you've put anything in the first place, you'll select yes, and then they'll put in all of their information, their full name, whether or not they live with you, what's their date of birth, and their social security number. So in this situation, no, I don't have anybody else to add. So we're continuing on here. It's your personal information summary. You're going to go through, verify that everything is correct and that there's nothing that you've mistyped or left an important piece of information out. So continuing down here, it's, does somebody have an identity protection pin? This isn't really common, but if you have it, you should know about it. Phone number, just put a phone number in here. This is how additional ways that you can recover your account if you forgot your password. And then continuing on, basically, it's going to give you a couple different options here to upsell you to the next package. I don't think it's required, and certainly not for this situation, not doing any of sort of their paid options, and none of that would be required here. But it does talk about what Deluxe gives you, how it's $79.99. I'm just going to click continue. And what I do like is that it's not very difficult to avoid that. They don't give you an interface that makes it difficult where you can accidentally click, yes, I do want to do the upsell. So that is something nice compared to some other products that I've seen. Continuing on here, we're going to go through the income, and this is where we're going to be inputting our W-2 information. Now, they do have the ability to import a PDF, and where it basically takes the PDF that you uploaded, scans it, and then pre-fills out the information. So we're going to go in here and look. Probably one of the biggest drawbacks here is that they don't have the ability to automatically import W-2s or 1099s from common employers or from banks or brokerages. So basically you come through here and you fill out the W-2, but basically you put in what's the employee's social security number, the employer's identification number that is correspondent to the IRS. Now you'll see later on that it says that this EIN isn't valid, and this is because I used a fictional company. It's Crockett Manufacturing. It's located at 300 Alamo Plaza in San Antonio, Texas. Make sure that you get the full zip code, not just the first 5 digits, but go to the USPS website and put in the address, and they'll get you the additional 4 digits, which helps narrow down that zip code because that is required for this tax filing. Continuing down here, employee information. All this you're just going to be pulling directly from the W-2 and making sure that it has been inputted correctly. And then going through the different sections of the W-2, it's going to be your wages and tips, how much federal income taxes were withheld on that. And then it's going to be Social Security wages, Medicare wages, and then how much was withheld for each of those categories respectively. Then coming down here, basically, this one's going to be relatively simple since I did choose Texas for where this fictional person resided. So we do not have to worry about filing state income taxes, which makes this a lot simpler, and we only have to focus on the federal side. Once you verify that everything here is correct, you're going to hit save and continue. Yes, and this is where it gives me your invalid EIN, which I already know, but I'm just going to continue to be able to go through this walkthrough. Verify, yep, we only have one source of W-2 income for this example. We're going to hit continue. Now it's giving you another summary saying, yes, the only source of income is going to be from John's W-2, and then his wife is a homemaker, so she didn't bring in any sort of income for this previous year. Continue again. And it's going to go over the income, all the sorts of different income that you could focus on. For this example, I'm not going to go into them, but it does make it really easy to be able to go and input. Did you have interest income? So if you have a bank, you probably received a 1099 INT if you have a savings account. Dividend income. Again, this is going to be, do you have investments in the stock market and you receive dividends on them? You should be receiving a 1099 DIV that you're going to have to input here. Unemployment compensation, if that applied, Social Security benefits, retirement income, taxable state refund. If you live in a state with an income tax and you received an refund, that might be applicable to your federal income taxes. And then another thing that I really like here is that it gives you all the options for business and rental income. A lot of other competitors, TurboTax comes to mind. You're going to have to pay an additional fee to be able to get the access here with 1099K income, whether it's business income, so your 1040 Schedule C, to be able to file any of these things. It's an additional fee. For here, it's all included with the federal level. So all these are pretty simple. It's going to be a similar format to how you filled in the W-2. You can either upload the PDF or you just manually import it. You do not have the option to be able to import it from another website. Everything is going to be on you to make sure that it is filled out correctly. So saying no other sources of income here, we're going to continue. Cryptocurrency, you do have the option to do cryptocurrency filing with them. In this situation, we're going to say no, we didn't have any. Saving and continue, and it's going to give you a nice breakdown of the total summary of all of your sources of income. For here, it's just going to be the W-2. So we verified that, it's just the $50,000, and we're going to continue on. And now it's giving you the option to continue with a pro on your side. This is the next level that is above and beyond what the deluxe offers, and it is $34.99. So the biggest thing here is that it gives you the option to talk to a CPA. You can use live screen sharing and everything that's included with deluxe. But the biggest thing here is that it includes access to a CPA for one-on-one consultations. For this situation, you certainly don't need it, but if it's something you want, you can always add it on. So continuing on here, now it's saying, yep, let's maximize your refund by going to the deductions. So the standard deduction for married filing jointly is going to be $25,900 for tax year 2022. So because we're not going to be doing any sort of itemized deduction with this example, we're just going to be taking the standard deduction, which for most people, unless they have a large amount of donations to charity or they're doing some pretty complicated tax strategies, the standard deduction is most likely what's going to be best for you. So continuing on here, it says, do you have any of these itemized deductions? For this situation, we're going to say no, but they do go pretty in depth with the various sorts of itemized deductions that you could have. So continuing on, deduction summary. Yep, we're just taking the standardized deduction. We're not taking any itemized deduction, so that's very simple. Your standard deduction of $25,900 is more than your itemized deduction of $0. And it says, do you want to use your standard deduction? Since it is larger than your itemized deduction, if your standard deduction is larger than your itemized deduction, you are almost always going to want to take it. I really can't think of any reason you wouldn't, but it makes your whole tax situation simpler. Basically, never have to prove to yourself to the IRS that you did it correctly. Standard deduction, everybody gets it. Itemized deduction, if you are audited, that is something you're going to have to be able to prove with receipts or donation slips showing that you actually received those proper deductions and you weren't just pulling them out of thin air. So continuing on, yes, we're going to take the standard deduction. It says, did you have marketplace health insurance? For this one, no, we're going to say we didn't buy it on the healthcare.gov. We'll just have insurance from someplace else. It changed. You no longer have to prove that you have health insurance lest you be penalized. So continuing on, common deductions and credits. So a lot of people are going to have IRA contributions, whether if it's a traditional IRA that is tax deductible, if it's a Roth IRA that's not going to be tax deductible, college tuition expenses, student loan, teacher expenses, the earned income credit. If you have a question about what that is, click on the question mark and it's going to break down exactly what that means for you. So we're going to say none of these additional credits are applicable in this tax situation. Continuing on, other deductions that could be available to you, health and family, home, your mortgage, interest, that is tax deductible. So if you own your own home and you're paying a mortgage, make sure you're getting that 1098 so you can have it applied here. Vehicles and fuel, employment, other, basically going through almost all the different things that you could use, whether it's a tax deduction or a tax credit. Continuing on, and then it's going to give you another nice summary page. So it breaks everything down for you. In this situation, we're just taking the standard deduction. So it's about as simple as can be. And for a lot of people that are just starting out, this is really what your tax situation is going to look like. So we continue down here, hit continue again. Well, we're making great progress. Again, they give you the option to upsell. You don't need to do that, but if it's something you want, you certainly can. Going to the miscellaneous section, these are a bunch of extra things that could be on here, not applicable to most people. If you are self-employed, there are some things in here that you want to pay attention to, like your 2022 estimated tax payments. If you are not having money that is withheld from your income, that's something you're going to want to look into. We do have a separate video on that, but that's outside of the scope of this one. Just make sure you're paying those estimated tax payments if it is required, so you don't get penalized at the end of the year. Other things that you could have to worry about, just a bunch of other things, options here, not applicable to a lot of people, but if they are applicable to you, you want to make sure you look into them. Continuing on, and then it says refund maximizer. Do you want to go through the refund maximizer? I would never say no, just always say yes. Probably most of these things aren't going to apply to you, but it never hurts to be able to get a little bit more money back in your pocket. So we'll do yes, save and continue. And then it goes through different ways that you could be able to get a little bit more money back in your pocket with your tax refund. In this situation, we're going to say no, that none of these apply, but they might apply to you. So we're going to continue. Minimize your income, which is another way to reduce how much money you owe in taxes. And then it says you have a child that receives a W-2. For this situation, we're going to say no. Continuing on. Maximize your deductions and credits. In this situation, we're going to say no for all of these, but they might apply for you. Continuing on again, we're going to check for documents. It's just making sure that you've entered everything that you have tax-wise into the system, so that way they're giving you the most accurate information in reporting to the IRS, accurate information for what is actually in your life. So continuing on in here again, it's going to give you a federal tax summary, and I really like this page because I think it makes it pretty simplistic to understand how much money did you make, how much did you pay in taxes, how much you actually owe in taxes. Are you getting a tax refund, or do you have to write a check to the IRS? So it's going to come down here. It breaks everything up into income, adjustments, which would adjust your taxable income. And then it's going to get into your adjusted gross income. You'll take your deductions, like your standard deductions, which you're probably taking. And then it's going to say your taxable income. How much taxes do you actually owe? And then it's going to say alternative minimum tax if it applies to you. It's going to say what credits did you get for the situation, because we have one dependent. We're going to get one child tax credit, which is equal to $2,000. And then we look, what are our total payments? So we had this money withheld from our paychecks, and that's reflected on the W-2. So here it was $6,754 that was withheld, but we only owed $2,484. So we add that $2,000 tax credit on top of it. So it's effectively like we paid $8,754, subtract how much we actually owe, and we're going to be receiving a tax refund of $6,270. Now, trying to minimize how much you get is a separate subject that I'll talk about later, but ideally you have as low of a positive refund as possible, so that way you're not giving the government a tax-free loan throughout the year. Once you've verified this, we're going to hit continue, and now it's going to be your state return. If it's applicable for this situation, I use Texas. Texas doesn't have an income tax, so that's not going to be a factor. So we're going to say, do we need to start a state tax return? No. Continuing on here. A couple things to finish up. We're going to continue to filing. Basically, it's going to give you some other things that you can upgrade to, whether it's audit defense. I don't really think you need that. Deluxe and pro support, I've already talked about what you have on there. It's going to be a printed copy of your tax return or a bound copy of your tax return. If that's something you want, feel free to do it. That's not something I would pay for though. So save and continue. It says, how would you like your federal refund? You have the option of a direct deposit to a bank account. You can get a green dot prepaid Visa, or you can get a paper check in the mail. I'm going to select that so I don't have to put in any actual bank account information. Do you want to buy any iFunds with your refund? Not really common, but it is available to you. I'd recommend just getting that money directly back to you instead. So we'll hit save and continue. It says double check your refund info. Here's the made up account that I made for where John Smith lives. Yes, this is how much money you're going to be getting as a federal refund by check. Then we're going to hit continue. It says send a phone number to the IRS, and we're going to say no, we don't want to do that. Double check your return info, and basically this is where I'm going to stop because I did have to make up some of this information. I wasn't going to put my actual EIN in here, and I made up a social security number for John Smith, Jane Smith, and then Joe Smith. But basically at this point, if everything you entered is correct, that's where you're going to have the option to just hit submit and everything will go through. And now that you've seen a full walkthrough of what their actual product looks like, it's time to talk about what are the pros and what are the cons of using FreeTaxUSA. In the pro category, probably the first one is that it is free federal filing. And I think that is pretty huge, particularly that you're not restricted on what type of income you make and how much you make. A lot of the other free filing options are going to limit you on how much you make, particularly if you're going through the IRS free file program. Now, the other part that I think is in part of this first one, but is worth mentioning again, is that it is not an additional fee if you have self-employment income. Say you're working a side hustle, you're starting up the business that you've already streamed about. Most places are going to charge you an extra fee that could be anywhere from $100 to $200 to be able to do those sorts of filing with your 1040 Schedule B, as well as other things that you have to file once you start making self-employment income, because your tax situation does become a lot more complicated. Another pro is that I do think their website is laid out pretty well. It is kind of text heavy, but I do think it's pretty intuitive and it is really easy to kind of move forward. It does a nice linear process of starting in what makes sense at the beginning with your personal information and then working all the way through from your income to your deductions to your credits towards giving you nice summaries along the way so you understand exactly what's going on with your taxes. And then with that, all those little question marks along the way, I think it's easy to get a lot of education to help you understand the things that you don't necessarily understand coming into the tax filing season. Since taxes can be so complicated, I love as much resources as possible to be able to understand and broaden your understanding of how taxes work. And another pro is that even though their state filing isn't free, the fee is nominal when you compare it to other competitors, such as those big names I mentioned earlier. At $14.99 per state, you're looking at a significantly lower cost compared to what you would be paying if you filed with some of the other competitors out there. And then the last benefit I want to mention is that even if you use all of their potential upgrades, use the Pro at $34.99, let's say you grab that audit defense, and you even want your tax return printed out and bound and sent to you. If you get every upgrade that's available, you're still going to be looking at paying less than the cheapest options of filing with some of those other big brand name tax filing services. And with those pros on the board, time to look at the cons, which I think a lot of the time can actually be more helpful than what are the benefits of a service. So the first thing I want to throw up here is that it is called FreeTaxUSA, but you do still have to pay for the state filing. while it's a nominal fee, I am going to put that out there as a detractor. That is a con that you do have to pay for it because there are some options out there that do allow free filing for both federal and state taxes. Another con is that the user interface is rather text heavy, and I think that can be a detractor for some people with having those extra pictures and a better interface that might make it easier to understand and get through the filing process. I don't think this is a huge one, but it can definitely be a detractor for certain people. And then probably the biggest con that I want to talk about, which is probably going to be a deal breaker for some people, is that there's no ability to directly import W-2s or 1099s from banks and brokerages. If you do a lot of trading or if you do a lot of crypto, let's say you're a day trader, having to manually input all of those transactions, which could easily be into the hundreds of thousands throughout the year, can make it not worth it, even though you are able to file for free, and you might be much better off looking someplace else. Even though you're paying, you're going to save a lot of time by doing so. With both the pros and the cons on the board, should you use FreeTaxUSA? I think it's most beneficial to start off with who would be better off looking at another tax filing software. The first person here is I'm going to recommend is if you're looking to truly save as much money as possible and you're trying to not pay anything at all for either your federal or your state taxes, do a little bit of research and see if you can get access to one of the IRS free file programs that does allow you to file both your state and federal taxes for free. And even if you make too much money to qualify for that, there are some other places like Cash App taxes come to mind where it is free for both your federal and your state filing. So if you're trying to pay nothing, you're probably better off looking someplace else. Then the next category of person who I'd probably recommend looking someplace else is if you are an active trader. If you make a lot of transactions throughout the year, because you would have to manually input all of them into the software, you're probably better off paying that little bit of extra money to be able to save the time that it would take you to do it with FreeTaxUSA and using another software, maybe going to a CPA, just using something else where somebody else is going to do that for you, or it has an automated program to be able to do it. And then the last type of person I would recommend not using FreeTaxUSA is if you're looking to completely offload your tax filing to somebody else. That's not a service that FreeTaxUSA offers. And you're better off looking towards some other service that allows you to just give all your tax documents to them and then they file your taxes on your behalf. Now, with all those reasons not to use FreeTaxUSA, I do think it is still a pretty solid program to be able to use, and there are a fair number of reasons as to why you would choose this one over something else. The first one is that if you live in a state that doesn't have an income tax, you're going to be able to file all of your taxes completely for free, and I'd say that the FreeTaxUSA software is at least competitive with some of the other best softwares out there, particularly when you consider that you're paying $0 to be able to use it. And then the kind of flip side of that is if you do receive income from multiple states that you have to pay income taxes on, you're probably going to be better off using FreeTaxUSA because it's going to cost you less than looking at some of the other programs out there. Now, I had mentioned that Cash App Taxes allows you to file your state taxes for free. They only allow you to do that with one state, and they don't even give you the option to do multiple state returns. So that's not something you'd even be able to use in the first place, and you'd have to use another tax filing software anyway. So why not do it all in one place and start with doing your federal taxes and one of your states here, and then having to go someplace else for more state taxes? And then I think the type of person that would almost be a perfect fit for FreeTaxUSA is if you have a small business and you're self-employed or you're starting up a side hustle. When you go and look at some competitors, TurboTax and H&R Block come to mind, to be able to do your self-employment income, you're going to be paying almost $100 depending on the software to be able to do that. Whereas with FreeTaxUSA, at least on the federal level, it's free to do, and they include all of the tax forms that you need to be concerned about when you're looking at self-employment income. And then lastly is if you're looking to try to get access to a CPA to assist you with your taxes, and you're trying to look at a good budget option that's still going to give you good quality, but is definitely going to save you money with their Pro program that is only $34.99, is going to help you save some significant money. When you look at TurboTax, for example, you're either going to be looking at $89 if you have no investments or $139 if you do have investments to file. And that is going to be a significant savings, even if you use the upgraded options that FreeTaxUSA offers compared to some of their competitors. Now, I don't think when it comes to taxes, there is going to be a good one-size-fits-all solution for everybody. So you're going to have to take what I say and compare it with your own research to decide whether or not a company, regardless of who they are, is going to be a good fit for you and your finances. Now, whether or not FreeTaxUSA is a fit for you, you're definitely going to want to check out these tips that are going to help you make sure you're making the right decisions to get the largest refund possible. Thanks for watching, and please remember, from your first penny to your first million, we're here to help.